Good evening and welcome to episode 0 of Slap Shots Fired, part of the Empty the Bench podcast network. I'm your host, Hank Indictor, and join me as always is my co-host, Jennifer. How's it going, Jennifer?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. We have a lot to cover in such a short amount of time. We are going to be previewing the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs, the first round, 4 series per each conference. Lot to talk about. Should be a lot of fun, but before we get into the meat and potatoes, I want to give you guys a friendly neighborhood reminder. Please don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SlapShotsETB. And if you want to, you can also follow us on our personal Instagrams down below. And without further ado, let's talk about the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs, shall we? And I think we should start off by talking about the Western Conference Series. And the first one that we are going to go to is what I like to call the Wayne Gretzky series, and that's the Edmonton Oilers against the Los Angeles Kings. For those of you who are history buffs, you know why I called it that. But anyways, let's get right to it. This should be a very interesting series. You have the Los Angeles Kings, who have a combination of some of their remaining guys from the old championship run, such as Drew Doughty, and of course you have some younger players such as Quinton Byfield on that team, and they're newly retooled and they're making their second playoff appearance in a row since their little mini drought after 2016, and will definitely be, or actually no, sorry, 2018. I forgot that they got swept by the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round that year. But in any event, I think the Kings are definitely an interesting story, but they're going to have some tough competition going up against the Edmonton Oilers, and you know how Connor McDavid is. He had another fantastic season. 60 goals, could very well win the Hart Trophy. And obviously, you've got his partner in crime in Leon Draisaitl. Jennifer, who are your players to watch in this series?
I definitely think a young player to watch is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for sure. No one really saw him coming until right kind of the end of the season when he really turned up and really helped out both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You know, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I've kind of watched him for a little while now, and he's a very talented playmaker. He's very smart with the puck. He's quick with his release when he shoots the puck. And that's a lot to look for, especially when you're playing with guys like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, who have pretty much taken the NHL by storm. You know, they've been together for 2 years? Just about 2 years now they've been playing together?
Yeah, 2-3 years.
About 2-3 years? Yeah, they've been playing together for a while. Now you bring in a guy like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and you bring in a guy like Stuart Skinner, guys like that who are really young talents, you know, that's a recipe for a good run here, you know?
Absolutely. And for the LA Kings, I think an important player to really look out for is Drew Doughty. He is one of the remaining members of their two Stanley Cup winners. He's a playoff veteran, and Jennifer, I often say experience in these playoffs matters a lot, and I think he could definitely be an X factor should the Kings take a game or two in the series. However, let's get to the predictions, and ultimately I have the Edmonton Oilers winning this series in 6 games. I think while the Kings are pretty solid, I just don't know if they have enough power to take down the Edmonton Oilers.
I definitely agree with you. I think Edmonton takes it in 5, though. I think Edmonton just has a bigger advantage. I think Edmonton, they got a lot of young guys, you know, up front with LA. You know, you got guys who are older like Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty. You know, they've been around the block for God knows how many years now. They're just not the same players they used to be. You know, they're still good players, don't get me wrong. By any means, I am not discrediting their entire career, everything they've done. They're not in their prime of their careers anymore. They're older guys. They're guys who are kind of on their way out the door. Again, we look at Pittsburgh, for example. They didn't make it this year. Unfortunately, got knocked out in kind of a heartbreaker, honestly, for their fans. Look at the lineup Pittsburgh has. They got guys like Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, guys who have been around the league for pretty much their entire careers. They've been with this one team.
Yep.
So if you look at it that way, kind of an example of that would be LA. LA is kind of a mini Pittsburgh Penguin, if that kind of makes sense.
I think they're a little bit different in the sense that the Penguins have been in the playoffs for so long, whereas the LA Kings at least are getting younger. I mentioned Quinton Byfield being their very high draft pick. But either way, I think they'll definitely make this series interesting. But ultimately, I think the Oilers are the better team at the end of the day. And now let's go on to the other series that features two teams in the Pacific Division. That's the Vegas Golden Knights and, of course, the Winnipeg Jets. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this will be a very long series. Maybe Winnipeg can steal a game or two because Connor Hellebuck is a really good goaltender. But at the end of the day, when I look at the Vegas Golden Knights and who's on their roster, you got Marchessault and you've got Jack Eichel making his first ever Stanley Cup playoff appearance. I think they should win this series in about 5 games. And Jennifer, do you have any players on each side who you think could be X factors?
I think definitely for Vegas, you got a lot of fun players on that team. But I think Jonathan Marchessault definitely is an underdog here. You know, he's really kind of helped out that team, and he's been scoring a lot of goals for them. They also just picked up, I believe, Alex Pietrangelo from St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he's been around the block and been on a lot of playoff runs with the Blues and won a cup too, so that definitely is a good one.
I think, you know, again, as you said, experience is important. Alex Pietrangelo won a cup recently with the St. Louis Blues back in 2019.
2019, yeah, and, you know, to piggyback on that, I would say that also helps with the acquisition of Jonathan Quick, too, because remember, Quick at one time was in the conversation for best goalie in the NHL. Remember, he won 2 cups with the LA Kings, and he won the Conn Smythe, too, in 2012. So he's definitely going to be a factor in this series, even if he isn't quite in his prime anymore and he's getting up there in years. I definitely think he'll be a factor. But in any event, I have Vegas winning the series in 5 games.
I agree with you. I think I take Vegas in 5. Vegas is just a fun team to watch. I think Vegas is going to be a great team overall. But again, we look at, if you want to go back to having playoff experience, guys like Mark Scheifele, who've been around the league for as long as I can remember him being around the league.
Yep.
So again, experience is important, but do I think Winnipeg has the firepower to beat a team like Vegas who is young and exciting? No, I don't.
All right, now let's move on to the third series, and I'll tell you a fun fact. This is actually interesting in the sense that these two teams sort of have history in the sense that they both played in Minneapolis, but obviously we got to go with the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars, who, yes, they were originally the Minnesota North Stars, so you can imagine the feelings in Minnesota as they are playing the team that used to be there. So definitely an interesting series, and you and I talked about the Dallas Stars beforehand, and we both think that they are sneaky good.
I agree. I made a hot take on a friend of yours' stream that you did.
Yes.
So shout out here to Noah Dobler and Garth Michael Patrick of Review and Preview to do a show called Pucking Around. Huge shout out to those guys. They had him on just the other night.
Yes.
You guys talked a lot of hockey. You guys did kind of a little bit like we're doing, so
pretty similar.
A little bit of shout out here to the guys on Pucking Around. They are awesome.
It's a little similar, but obviously we have a little bit of differing opinions. But anyways, I think the Dallas Stars definitely were quietly one of the better teams in the Western Conference. You have Jason Robertson being one of their premier players, and obviously you still have Tyler Seguin being a factor, but obviously you got to go to the Minnesota Wild, who have some pretty good star power of their own in Kirill Kaprizov, and obviously you have our old friend in Matt Zuccarello on that team, and you have Marc-Andre Fleury as their goalie. Definitely, he's coming to the end of a Hall of Fame career, but there's a chance he could win a few of these big games in the first round, but he's also had a reputation for losing a lot of these big games in the past, so we'll see how that plays out. Ultimately, though, I am taking the Dallas Stars to win this series in 6 games. I think Jason Robertson is just one of those players who can really elevate a team in a best-of-7.
I agree with you, but honestly, I just want to go back to the players to watch for 1 second here.
Go for it.
There's an underrated player that a lot of people are overlooking with Minnesota now. Ryan Reeves has been a guy that we saw for the Rangers kind of come to life a little bit with his career. He's been around the league for many, many years. I remember there being a funny moment with the Rangers on the fathership where he was asked how many fatherships him and his dad have gone on together. I believe they said 8 or 9 total.
That's awesome.
Shows you how long he's been around the league. But you saw him turn up at the end of the season. I believe he scored, 6 goals in 7 games, something like that?
Yeah, and he also is a veteran presence for a team, and any team could use a guy like him for sure.
And he's a big physical player. We've seen him dominate with the Rangers. He took a lot of bodies to the boys, so it should be a really interesting series. Dallas has a lot of star power too, but again, I agree with you. I think Dallas takes it, but I think Dallas takes it in 7. I think we're going to see a fun series there again. I think all these teams are really fun this year. It should be a really fun playoffs run for every team. Every team that's in it right now has earned their spot.
Miro Heiskanen's another guy I think we should really look out for. He's probably another one of the top point getters on the Dallas Stars. But anyways, moving on to the final series of the Western Conference, we've got the defending champion Colorado Avalanche against the very surprising Seattle Kraken. Now, as much as I would love to give you a hot take, which I know you love to make a lot of those, and I know you're going to make a lot of those as we get into more episodes on this show, ultimately, I don't think that's going to happen because, and here's why. The Colorado Avalanche simply have too much star power. You've got Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, to name a few. And I think they definitely improved with their goalie situation by getting our old friend Alexander Georgiev. Yeah, I would say they definitely upgraded there with him. So the Seattle Kraken are going to have their hands full. And also, they are a young team with their star players not having as much playoff experience. But I really like Matty Beniers. I think he is definitely going to be a star in the NHL within the next few years. But ultimately, I don't know that it's quite their time yet. I think Colorado wins this series in 5.
I'm going to throw a little bit of a hot take out here for you.
Let's hear it.
You said 5. I think they got swept in 4.
I don't know if I'd call that a hot take, but I would definitely not be surprised if that happens.
Unfortunately, as much as we all love watching Seattle and how much fun they've been having this season, just with their young guys, you're going up against the defending Stanley Cup champions, dude, and they got players who want to win. So, do I think it's going to be a close series? Unfortunately, no, I do not. I think Colorado takes it in 4.
Yeah, definitely. And now, I think it's time to move on to the Eastern Conference, and I'm going to save the Metro Division series for the very end for obvious reasons, but let's start off with the Bruins and the Florida Panthers. Now, the Florida Panthers definitely have been an interesting team. You remember last year, they had a President's Trophy season, and they made a big trade with the Calgary Flames where they ended up getting, I believe it was Matt Tkachuk in exchange for Jonathan Huberdeau. And I think the trade was good and bad in the sense that you lost one of your key players. But ultimately, I think last year they may have had their best shot. And while they did have a better second half to vault them into the playoffs, ultimately, I'm not very bullish on Sergei Bobrovsky. He's been a guy that's often been notorious for playoff meltdowns and, ultimately going up against a Bruins team that has the likes of David Pastrnak, Patrice Bergeron, who's probably going to be in his last year. I believe he's retiring after the season. Brad Marchand, and not to mention some of your other old core from playoff runs past, and a really good goaltender in Linus Ullmark. I think this is going to be a very short series. I have the Bruins sweeping.
I agree with you, but I think definitely a player to watch is, again, one of our old friends who was here for a very short time, Eric Stahl.
Yes, I love Stahlsy.
I think another, they're a great hockey family. You got to give it to them.
Oh, yeah. They've lasted in the league for, 15 plus years?
But again, I agree with you. I think the Bruins sweep in 4. I think as much as Florida's a little bit sneaky here and there, especially Matthew Tkachuk, we talk about a star power family, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Chuck family, how far they've had. You know, their father was a great hockey player, and now both boys are definitely heating up. So, but unfortunately, I think Bruins just want it more. Bruins have been on a tear here. They lead the league in points. I believe they ended with 100. What is it, like 119 points, something?
Oh gosh, it's got to be like more than that. But yeah, like 119 at least. They have been absolutely dominating. But let's not forget, as great as their regular season has been, setting the record in wins and points, you throw that all the way once you get to the playoffs. That's the ultimate test. And obviously, this is a now or never season by the Bruins. And I like the trade deadline acquisitions they made in getting Dmitry Orlov and Garnet Hathaway from the Capitals to really beef up their defensive unit. But I think they're definitely going to be a tough out for sure. However, let's assume that we're correct in our prediction. I think regardless of who wins the next series, they are probably going to give the Bruins a bit of a handful in the second round. And we've got the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, incidentally, these two teams actually played each other last year in the first round, and that went the full 7. But as you probably know, if you've paid attention to your hockey, this was another example of the Toronto Maple Leafs choking in the first round, although not as bad as years past, but still. The first round just remains a hurdle for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's really crazy that that's the case when you look at all the talent they have with the likes of John Tavares, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, and then you also have Morgan Riley, and I also really like the acquisition of Ryan O'Reilly, who we ended up meeting in the players' lot not too long ago. That was pretty cool. He's a really nice guy. But ultimately, the Leafs are just a team that, due to reputation, it's hard to predict them, especially when you look at the team that they're playing against. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been in the Stanley Cup playoffs the past 3 years. And look, it's no accident. This is a team that has a core of Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, and even though a lot of their other supporting cast has changed over the years, they've still found ways to make it work, and they have remained an absolute powerhouse. And not to mention, Andrei Vasilevsky might very well be the best goalie in the NHL. This series is going to go the full 7, but Jennifer, you know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm actually going to take the Toronto Maple Leafs to win this series in 7 games. I don't know why. This is just what my gut's telling me. I feel like the Dragon just has to be slayed eventually. And am I confident in doing this? Absolutely not. We know how good the Toronto Maple Leafs are, but this is just a random gut feeling I have. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry. I think the Lightning take it in 6.
I would not be surprised because look how
if we go back to looking at the reputations here, Toronto has a thing for, let's call it some fate here, but choking in Game 7s?
Yes. Ask the Bruins how they felt about coming back from 4-1 down in Game 7 10 years ago.
So, again, I think the Lightning just outpaced the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, I feel like, right at the end, the Maple Leafs are just going to run out of gas. They're a fun team to watch, though. Again, going back to what you said about Andrei Vasilevsky for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I almost want to comparatively compare them to the goalie tandem of Jeremy Swayman and
Linus Ullmark
of the Boston Bruins. Because that's just such another... I didn't get to say much with Boston, but, dude, look at their goalie. They look like they're having the time of their lives.
But see, it helps when you have a really good goalie tandem because then you can give one guy a rest and keep him fresh throughout the playoffs. So that definitely helps the Bruins. But, yeah. And now we get to some really interesting series. Now we get to our division. We've got the Carolina Hurricanes against the New York Islanders. And there may be one more series that we need to talk about, but we're going to have a lot to say about that one. But there's a reason why I'm starting with the Islanders and the Hurricanes. Now, Jennifer, the Hurricanes were a team that you and I probably feared before the season, right? And remember, we beat them in a 7-game series, despite the fact that I think Carolina may have been the better team on paper. But this year, I wouldn't say they're quite as good. I know Brett Burns definitely has had a better season than a lot of people expected as a defenseman, and he proved to be an okay pickup, but he's also getting up there in years. And then when you look at their core, you still have Sebastian Aho, who's definitely been really good. The problem is you also lost Andrei Svechnikov for the season due to a torn ACL. And, you know, to say that the Hurricanes kind of limped into the playoffs, granted they still won the division, is kind of the understatement of the year. And I think it begs the question, how do they rebound from the loss of one of their stars to a serious injury? And can they flip the switch in the playoffs? Now, when you look at the Islanders on paper, this looks like it should be a short series. But if you've watched playoff games in the past, you know that a hot goalie can steal some games. And Ilya Sorokin, I think, is definitely capable of doing that for the New York Islanders, who still have a lot of guys who were on those back-to-back conference final runs, such as Anders Lee and Brock Nelson, to name a few. And Bo Horvat proved to be a really good trade deadline acquisition. Now, granted, I think Lou obviously way overpaid for him shortly thereafter, but the fact of the matter is he's still trying to keep their window open, and ultimately it sort of helped. Even though the Islanders kind of fell apart a little bit down the stretch, they lucked out with Pittsburgh losing a really bad game to the Chicago Blackhawks, and so they are in the playoffs. And Jennifer, what's your prediction for this series?
I'm going to go a little bit of a hot take here. Again, as you guys know, I love my hot takes, hence the little title of our show, throwing some flames out there. I think Carolina takes this in 4. I'm sorry.
Wow.
The Islanders are good, and they have a fun core. Again, who wants it more? Carolina has been hot all season, and they've hung out between first and second place in the Metro Division the entire season, pretty much. Again, when they were in the same spot last year. So is this another fluke year for them? Or are they going to go far? And I think I'd take Carolina over the Islanders any day of the week.
Excuse me. Yeah, I would take the Hurricanes too, but as far as a 4-game sweep, I don't see that happening. I think the Islanders are going to make things interesting. Ultimately, I see Carolina winning this one in 6 games.
I can understand that. Again, hot takes are fun, so...
Yes, you are the queen of hot takes for sure.
Love it.
Now, without further ado, and I can already hear a certain Empty the Bench host blaring his sirens right now. We have got a big rivalry, the Hudson River rivalry. I may or may not have a blog about this series coming up if you want to check that out on our Empty the Bench Sports Podcast Network website. But without further ado, we've got our New York Rangers against the hated New Jersey Devils. And right off the bat, I'm going to tell you right now, this series is going the full 7. You just know it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely agree. No hot takes here for me for this one.
But if we're going to talk about players to watch out for on the New Jersey Devils side, I think we have to obviously start off with Jack Hughes. Now, I mean, granted, he hasn't really been talked about when it comes to, say, the Hart Trophy, but 43 goals in addition to 56 helpers, giving him 99 points. I think Jack Hughes has definitely established himself as a star, and he is going to be a guy that will be a thorn in our side for many years to come. And, you know, look at who he has around him. Timo Meier was a good pickup from the San Jose Sharks. I don't think the Devils really gave up all that much to get him, to be honest with you. I think San Jose absolutely got fleeced, but the real question remains is, can they re-sign him in the offseason? But that's a discussion for another day. They also have Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, and they're going to be a team that you have to watch out for. And Andre Palat's another X factor too, since he was a big part in a lot of runs that the Tampa Bay Lightning made in years past. And now that he's on the Devils, who knows what kind of impact he can make on them. And Vitek Vanacek, for the first half of the season, looked like he was having a career year. He kind of tailed off a bit in the second half, but he definitely was a factor for the New Jersey Devils. But now, of course, we have to talk about our beloved New York Rangers.
Well, there's one headline before we get into that, there's actually one pretty big headline that we actually didn't talk about.
What's that?
And I think we should definitely bring this up. Jack Hughes now has a little friend with him, his little brother.
Oh, that's right.
Luke Hughes is here now. He signed about 4 days ago, I believe 4 or 5 days ago. He signed a 2-year contract, I believe, for whatever the entry level, I think, or something along those lines. Don't know the exact number offhand, but.
Yeah, and he had a helper in Jack's overtime goal against the Washington Capitals in the series finale, so that was pretty cool. I don't think he's going to get as much playing time because he's going to be behind guys like Ryan Graves, John Marino, and Dougie Hamilton on the defensive depth chart.
No, I agree with you here. I just definitely think that's a headline you have to talk about.
Absolutely.
Now you have 2 out of the 3 Hughes brothers on the same team. I think that's going to be a fun rivalry for years to come. Little sibling rivalry here.
Well, I mean, look, Meatloaf said it best. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But in any event, there's a reason a lot of people have been fearing the New Jersey Devils if you're a fan of the New York Rangers. And personally, for me, it's because, well, it's a close rivalry. Anything can happen. This series can really be anything. It could even be a mystery box. But with that being said, let's take a look at the Rangers and why. I think, as a Ranger fan, I would be more than willing to take my chances with the roster that we currently have. I mean, let's face it. When you have a top 6 that consists of Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, Patrick Kane, and Vlad Tarasenko, 2 big deadline acquisitions, Trocheck, and, of course, Artemi Panarin, yeah, I'm going to probably like those chances against any team in the NHL. And by that, yes, any team. I do include the Bruins, but obviously it's one round at a time. And then, not to mention, we have a pretty solid third line. Consists of a few young kids, shall we say.
3 young kids.
And defensively, healthy Ryan Lindgren, Adam Fox, who probably would have won the Norris Trophy if it wasn't for Erik Karlsson playing absolutely out of his mind. And not to mention Jacob Trouba, who's really continued to emerge as a strong leader for the New York Rangers. And, I mentioned the goalie battle. The Devils have Vitek Vanacek, who looked all right in the first half, but people were starting to doubt Igor Shesterkin with all the goals that he was giving up in some of the games. But if you really look at how he's played in the second half, he's tightened things up. And I think it also helps that our defense has been playing better too for the most part of the second half. I'm sorry, but when it comes down to it in a 7-game series, I'm definitely going to be taking Igor over Vanacek when it's all said and done. And not to mention, most of these Rangers were there when they almost made it to the Cup Finals. Even all 3 of the young kid line members too. And now that you add 2 former Cup winners into the mix in Tarasenko and Patrick Kane, I think that can only help the Rangers. So, look, I know a lot of people are very nervous, but I really, really do feel good about the Rangers' chances in making a deep run for that reason.
I agree with you, but there's one big guy who you also missed who is also a Stanley Cup champion. We have a guy on our fourth line, Barclay Goodrow, who won with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yes, Barclay Goodrow. And I mentioned that Tampa Bay has often changed their the rest of their supporting cast over the years. Yeah, Goodrow's another example of that for sure. You're right. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Tyler Mott, who is another key reacquisition by Chris Drury. Remember, he was also a deadline acquisition the year before, but definitely happy to have him on the fourth line along with Goodrow and Jimmy Vesey. So, again,
another kind of welcome back to Jimmy Vesey, who is also here and I believe he was a part of that. What was it, 2014 playoff? Was he there for that?
No, 2016-17. He just missed out on those deep runs.
But again, Jimmy Vesey, welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy to have you back. Great player for the Rangers. Good pickup for the Rangers, too.
Yep.
Good contract. Again, another contract we have to look at here. 1/3 of the kid line. Re-signed with the Rangers for a little hometown discount.
Yeah, that goes to show you that a lot of players seem to really believe in their chances and want to play for the Rangers. And, it's like I mentioned in another blog that I had written. Many players came to the Rangers back when I was a kid for a lot of the wrong reasons. Now they're coming here because they want to win. It shows you how times have changed, but that's a tangent for another day.
Now, I just want to make a little joke here. We kind of talk about the little Filipino hometown discount.
Mm-hmm.
And for this guy, it was definitely not all about this.
Shout out to our buddy Nick Morgeson if you're watching.
Nick will be watching this because he's our producer, so he's got to keep us in line.
Well, of course.
Again, here, let's talk about the Rangers a little bit more in depth here. Now, you look at guys like Igor Shesterkin, but we also have a very good backup goaltender who a lot of people also doubted at the beginning of the season. He had a little bit of a rough start here with the Rangers, got a little bit of off to a slow start, but he's really picked up his game, and he's really made some key saves for this Rangers organization. Yaroslav Halak, man. He came in as a very underrated goalie coming off kind of a weird season. Didn't really play as well as people would have thought he would. People really doubted him, and, Igor was also getting a lot of heat during this time as well because he also was really not playing that great. Rangers were dropping a lot of games that they should have been winning.
I mean, here's the thing. Halak was really meant to be a serviceable backup, and you know what? After a rough start to the season, particularly the game against the Chicago Blackhawks, I believe that was on December 3rd, where he let in some really bad goals and Jacob Trouba threw his helmet. He's proven to be very serviceable and, definitely a solid choice to have if, God forbid, something happens to Igor. But yeah, no offense to Halak, I don't want to see him starting in a playoff game, but I think if we have to see him start, he's definitely serviceable. And you know what? The team will play pretty well in front of him too. So it's a pretty solid team that we have here. And you also have Louis Domingue as one of the Black Aces too.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. The Rangers have called up a few of their guys from the AHL affiliate, the Hartford Wolfpack, who are also going into their playoffs, so good luck to them as they kind of take on their playoff journey as well at the same time as the Rangers here in New York.
Yeah, definitely best of luck to the Wolfpack, and I'd love to see a game one of these days. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Definitely think for next season, a little bit of a road trip is definitely necessary.
Absolutely.
But again, let's look at this Rangers team a little more with this matchup. This matchup has been a huge matchup. We've seen it in years past with the Rangers and the Devils, and it's gotten very physical. Now, look, you have guys like Ryan Lindgren, Barclay Goodrow, even Braden Schneider, who aptly titled
Baby
a little
Trubes.
bit of a nickname here, Baby Trouba, who, if you guys know anything about our guy Jacob Trouba, the clean hits have really been followed up by some pretty big fights, kind of protecting and serving his team. Again, look at why he's captain. Look at what he's done for this team. That helmet throw during that Blackhawks game turned this entire season around for the Rangers.
Yeah, and Brian Attard made this point too. Had the Rangers won at least half their games in the first half, they probably could have been neck and neck with the Bruins in the President's Trophy. That's how good they've been all season long, really, so to speak. But am I really even disappointed? No, because at the same time, when it really all comes down to this, most of these games that you and I were attending during the season didn't really matter. Like, from mid-January on, you pretty much knew the Rangers were going to go to the playoffs. It was only a matter of time. You just wanted them to look good, and you wanted to have something to feel optimistic about going into the postseason. And look, to tell you the truth, I really do feel pretty optimistic. And I know that might sound a little crazy for me because, as Ranger fans, we're used to seeing a lot of bad things happen. But keep in mind, I wasn't necessarily feeling like this in, say, 12, 14, and 15 when I was in high school and they made all those deep runs. This is a much different team in terms of talent level and, like, what they have behind the bench and their head coach. And, the experience that they had from last year could really be a big factor in them. I really think it'll matter. So I can't wait for this playoff series to start, but I know, like you, I'm also very, 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 very nervous, and it's a wonder why this head of hair right here has not turned gray yet, but we'll see what happens, and I can't wait. I can't wait to drive down to Newark and watch game one. I know you probably want to avoid that place like the plague, but you and I will be there at the Garden.
Okay, let's put it out there. I did say this off camera to multiple people. The only way you'll ever get me back in that building is for a Game 7, because that's sure to be intense if it does get that far, which I'm pretty sure it will.
Fair enough, and I would be more than happy to have you with me in Game 7.
You guys will definitely be seeing more of us. Please, again, before we head out of here, because we got to kind of wrap this up here, please follow us on our social media. We are trying to grow our social media. We've been having a lot of fun putting out tons of content for you guys. We've really enjoyed going to games and taking you guys along with us for our journey and kind of our experience meeting the players. As we kind of touched on earlier, this guy got to meet Ryan O'Reilly the other game. Your girl got to meet Tyler Mott. I'm pretty happy. A new player I got to meet. Little fun detail here. I'm actually, well, we call it buddy system, but my buddy Braden Schneider at Capo Caco, who I have fun with every time we see them at the players' lot, have a little bit of fun conversation there going into it, but let's not get into that. We'll definitely talk about more in episode 1. Definitely we'll talk a little bit about our fandom here, and we're going to have some great guests for you guys. We have some great stuff lined up this summer, so please don't miss any episodes of Slap Shots Fired here on the Empty the Bench Network.
And until next time, I'm Hank Indictor.
I'm Jennifer Kate.
And we will see you guys next time.
Have a great night, guys.